This video is sponsored by my OnlyFans, where I do my meaningful sex educational content, fitness, health, nutrition, relationship advice, and more.
Hello everyone. Since this is a very big topic, I'll try to be as concise as I can. These are just my general thoughts. So, we're drawing near the end of season 1. Episode 7 left us with yet more thinking to do. So, how would I do things differently? I'm not sure, but I would focus on the question, why am I making this show and for whom? In my opinion, the priority is to honor Tolkien, his intentions, his style of writing, and the importance he gave to different elements in his prose. And then I am also making this show to the audience, who is interested in watching it thanks to Tolkien. This season is almost done, and I can't say I'm feeling that the show answers any of these needs, at least not for me and many others. I could not break down every scene, it would take me many hours, but a few dedicated Tolkien channels did cover the show, channels of optimistic people with much greater knowledge than mine, who talked in length of each episode, and I share many of their thoughts. In this video, I will merely share some general ideas of my own. These ideas will cover 5 categories. 1. Writing. 2. Cutting of content. 3. New timelines. 4. Characters and plots. And 5. The addition of new characters. I believe Amazon could still do a lot with the resources they had, including some of their new characters, so I will keep them in mind while going through these ideas. I will also say that I imagine these ideas to take place over the course of 2 seasons, at the least, in order to set a steady pace. So, starting with category 1, improving the quality of the writing. This includes better passage of time, travel, and logistics management. These aspects were crucial for Tolkien, who spent so much effort in creating a living, breathing world from its veins. Being precise in his maps, travels, details, and dates is a main quality in the Lord of the Rings novel. In contrast, the show has many problems in this regard. Travels and time passage are very conflicting. This goes against the emphasis Tolkien dedicated to these things. Even improving those alone could sharply bring up the quality of the show. When it comes to writing of dialogue and plots, there is also great room for improvements. Trying to mimic Tolkien's prose is not easy, and in my opinion should be avoided. He's one of a kind author for a reason. For many who lack his extensive scholarly experience and deep understanding of languages, mimicking his style falls flat, because truly it is not as simple as it might seem. So I think it's best to pursue the Peter Jackson route, including some of his own lines, and when writing new original material, don't try too hard to copy him, to sound just like him. Be more neutral, more modern even. So beyond that, they should stay as close to the lore as they can. Right now, it would take me many hours to go over all the lore issues, themes, narratives, characters, and whatnot. In many instances, the show contradicts the lore and presents a false image of Tolkien's literature and the misunderstandings of his intentions. How can we believe they love Tolkien if so much of their show does him wrong? That is something to keep in mind. in any adaptation. So moving to category 2, which is content and characters I would cut from the show. The only characters I would cut are the hobbits or the Harfoots in the show. That is because hobbits truly had nothing to do with the Second Age. Therefore, if we add a hobbit plot, where will it lead us to? On the show, their plot is rather confusing. Having hobbits in the show should involve them in the greater scheme of things, and there is no actual reason for it. It takes away too much time from the other, more important plots to the Second Age. Category 3, new timelines. By all means, the time compression in the show caused a ton of issues, from the ages of the characters to how many years have passed since the first age, to what time are we on the show exactly. As mentioned, accurate dates were crucial for Tolkien. It also dismantles the most important narrative of this age, which is the mortality of men, because we just don't see the full impact it had on the Númenóreans. I would incorporate two major time jumps on the show. One, a jump from the start of the age to the creation of the Rings of Power, and the second, jump to the fall of Númenor, which will progress into the War of the Last Alliance. Now, I understand that some viewers dislike time jumps, but when done right, they can work rather well. Most recently, House of the Dragon did a great job, in my opinion, in introducing new characters and jumping years forward. Vikings did the same. In my opinion, that is because both shows still had veteran characters to carry the introduction of new characters and new times. So why not do it here? The elves, being immortal, could become what I shall refer to as pillar characters. They will carry the timelines and introductions as the viewers are familiar with them, and you don't even need to age or change them physically. Simple. The show could begin in the early Second Age, just after the War of Wrath. There will be a brief prologue, which will go through what led to the end of the First Age, and presented as summarized in Appendix A of The Lord of the Rings, pages 1033 and 1034. Then the show could actually begin in the early Second Age, just after the War of Wrath. We would see Elrond and Elroth say their farewells to each other. After making their choices given by the Valar, Elrond will belong to the Noldor, and Elroth will be a mortal man of the Edain. Elroth will establish Númenor, and we would see some of its construction as a foundation for the next episodes. Elrond will stay in Middle-earth, of course, with Gil-galad, Círdan, Galadriel, Celeborn, and Celebrimbor. These elves will be the main pillars. To them, I would add new original elves, and they will have some importance, which I'll describe later on. Now, from Amazon's cast of elves, I would use Arondir as a pillar too. Only that he'll be an Avari elf, probably from the east. That way, we will have a pillar character also in Harad and the general east. Through him, we'll get an eye on these lands, understand their earlier history, and have a starting ground for the major Blue Wizards plot. That is it for pillar characters and major time jumps. I would not depict the tale of Aldarion and Erendis, since Amazon doesn't have the rights to it, but I could show pretty much everything else of importance, from Celebrimbor falling to Sauron's disguise, to the fall of Eregion, and the aid of Numenor, and later to the fall of Numenor and the War of the Last Alliance. A good deal of it is summarized in Appendix A. Now, to focus a bit more on the characters, we move on to the next category. So, category 4, characters and plots. These are only general guidelines. What happens in those plots in detail is a matter of discussion for people with much better talent than mine, and mine is non-existent, and to people who are much more knowledgeable than me. So, starting with plots, Arondir would be swept into the plots of the two blue wizards in Harad and in the east. We'll meet characters from both sides over there, meaning those who fall to Sauron and those who resist. We'll see their strife with Numenor in the later centuries. After the second time jump, the War of the Last Alliance, Arondir will be involved with Bronwyn and her son Theo from the Amazon show. Gil-galad, Círdan, and Elrond in Lindon will be the lore masters they are, helping the viewer with understanding concepts like histories and the nature of Middle-earth, and they will also move the greater plot against the growing of the shadow in the east. They'll be the bridge between Numenor and Middle-earth in the early days at least. Celebrimbor in Eregion will be the connection to Khazad-dûm characters, the dwarves. In Khazad-dûm, there will be none of Amazon's Mithril Hills things, no Durin's Bane reveal in the Second Age, and Durin the Deathless reincarnation theme will be kept as is and not dismissed like in the show. The kingdom of Khazad-dûm will play a bigger role during the time of the creation of the rings and the wars of the elves and Sauron. Celeborn and Galadriel, in their many travels, would further bind the plots in Eriador and Khazad-dûm together, and also serve as great sources for lore and world building. In Numenor, we'll build slowly towards the later centuries and introduce the question of mortality and the Numenorians' growing desire to defeat it. In Harad and in the east, realms will grow and we'll have to deal with Sauron's influence. In these regions, the two blue wizards, with the help of Arondir, will play a major role in working against his shadow and malice and against his servants and allies. As for characters' portrayal, I will not take Amazon's current route. I will keep them as close to the literature as possible. I will have only one Durin in Khazad-dûm, Durin III, who ruled during the time of Sauron's war in Eregion, after the construction of the rings, of course. I would keep Disa, the wife of Durin IV, on the show, but overall I will tone down the amount of humor involved with dwarves because they are not a comic relief in the lore, but of course, some humor never hurts. As for Sauron, and this relates to the aforementioned new elf characters, I would use the passage of time as a means to implement him in different bodies at different places. At first, he will be disguised as an elf, part of a traveling company of Noldorin blacksmiths to Eregion. There, he and the others would stay with Celebrimbor and become a part of his Wise-E Mirdain. In turn, this could possibly allow him to venture into Khazad-dûm, since we know that Celebrimbor and Narvi the dwarf were great friends, and there were close relations between Khazad-dûm and Eregion. Perhaps Sauron will also take the body of a dwarf. And it is a cool option, I guess. His schemes, though, will be subtle, at least until the creation of the rings. Gil-galad and Elrond's suspicion of him will be different, because in the lore they warn against Nathar. Here, since I intend to have Sauron to take several bodies, they'll merely cancel Celebrimbor against those close to him. To this concern, Galadriel and Celeborn can also attest and offer their own advice, to which, of course, our legendary Noldor blacksmith will not heed. In Numenor, I'll keep the characters as they are in the tales, at least in the second time jump, during the Fall of Numenor. Amandil will lead the faithful with Elendil, his son, in Andúniet. Pharazôn will take power due to his popularity and marry Miriel. Now, Halbrand from the Amazon show will play a role during these days too, meaning the Fall of Numenor. He'll be a Numenorian, perhaps a former faithful who was corrupted. He'll become one of the king's men and be a fierce supporter of our Pharazôn the Golden, and very close to him. This could lead to him later becoming one of the Black Numenorians who served Sauron, and involve him in Umbar. The two blue wizards, as mentioned, will become pillar characters and plot movers in Harad and in the East, with the help of Arondir. So now moving to the last category, how many characters exactly would I add into the show? So category 5, character additions. I don't think I'll add too many, but I'll add mainly protagonists for the black. There are no black wizards, I assure you. I meant the blue wizards plots. They'll play a big role in the later days of the Second Age. The Black Numenorians will be villains at this point. And of course, I'll add the elf characters who join Celebrimbor, one of which is Sauron in disguise. I'm not sure how many of these characters there will be. The number will be around 10, I imagine, but maybe less. But my hope is for Harad and the East to be big plots, to have a lot of things going in them. So, to conclude and close this video, overall, I think that sticking to the lore as close as possible would be the most reasonable and the most safe. I get that we might want to have twists and turns to not be too predictable, but ultimately the quality of the story is what matters, in my opinion. Even if you know the ending, reading it, or in this case, watching it, is an experience you'll wish to have numerous times. And if it is good enough, you'll learn new things each time you go on this adventure. So once again, I thank all of you for listening. I wish you the best. I wish you farewell. And that is it. See you maybe the next time. And be sure to leave Gary a comment with your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the show, if you didn't enjoy, if you enjoyed my rambling or not, God bless all of you.